views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests and not necessarily those of the staff and management of WWDB-TV.
Protect your business from the fastest growing crime of the 21st century. Find out here. You're watching Technology Review. Hello folks, welcome to another episode of Technology Review. This is episode number 373, recorded March 10th, 2020. I'm your host, Mack Jackson, Jr. My programs and services will help protect you and your business from identity theft and fraud and cyber crimes, folks. I want to thank you again for joining us here on Technology Review. Did you know that every 2 seconds, folks, there is someone that's trying to steal another person's personal identifiable information and becoming a victim of cyber crimes. In today's technology, folks, remember, information is the new currency, and education is our best defense against a cyber attack. So remember, folks, stay cyber woke. I would like to thank all of our fans and friends who have joined us, Technology Review, being part of our family, of our community here at Technology Review. What our aim is, folks, our goal is to spread information that can help people become more cyber aware and what's going on with their personal privacy in today's technology. Information is increasing steadily every day, and we need to make sure that our information is protected and our privacy is protected as well. In today's episode, we're going to talk about identity theft. It's the fastest growing crime in the US and around the world. Things you can do to protect yourself. There's stories about it that's been happening on a daily basis, and we're going to go through a couple of them. In our cyber crime news, we will continue the discussion of cyber crimes by talking about the casinos and hospitality industries that have been affected by cyber hacks. Folks, there's been a number of hotels, casinos from around the world, but especially here in Las Vegas as well, have been compromised with cyber attacks. And then, of course, in our third segment, we'll talk about cybersecurity awareness, education, and training, what your business can do to protect your customers' personal identifiable information. But first, folks, understanding cyber crimes. Cybercrime, folks, like identity theft, is one of the fastest growing crimes of the 21st century. It's when an unsuspecting victim has their personal identifiable information compromised by a criminal. Could be a hacker, it could be someone who steals their information, even physically. But the victim is then terrorized, in a sense, because their personal information is used for financial gain, and it can cause them untold damages, time and money and effort trying to prove that it wasn't them committing these particular acts. That's why it's very important we know where our data is and where it goes when we purchase information or when we give it to people for our consumer products and purchases. So just something to think about, folks, when you are talking with individuals on the phone or buying something, or someone's offering you a survey or asking you questions. Make sure you know where this data is going, what this information is for. And if at all points possible, try not to give out your social security number. Make sure that the information that you give them, if there's other information you can give them besides your social security number, try to keep that as private as possible. Because social security numbers now are easy to find out and figure out, let's not give that information out if it's not needed. A lot of companies now are changing over from social security numbers and not using it as a form of identification. Originally, it was never meant. That was shown to me by our producers here. Originally, it was never meant to be a form of identity. But nowadays, people are using it as a form of identity, and it should not be. So we need to have another form of identity. There's other information that can be used, and that's what we're looking to do now. Also, folks, did you know that when you go to the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles, to get your photo taken, your driver's license done, your photo is now, as of 2020, a form of identification. And I don't mean the photo, I mean the digital photo of your person will be used for facial recognition. This scanned image will be encrypted, and that encryption data string, if you would, will be used to identify you as a part of your personal identifiable information connected to your name, your weight, height, and other characteristics about you as an individual. So folks, there's other ways to identify ourselves, and using our Social Security numbers is not one of the ones that will be used in the future as time goes on. Currently in a lot of places it still is, but organizations, municipalities, and government agencies as well are looking to create other means of a unique identifier. There's even some talk of using things like the blockchain as a unique identifier that can be encrypted to uniquely identify individuals. In other words, we need to come up with a system that we can identify each other without exposing our personal private information to criminals that are out there that would like to compromise this information. So again, folks, stay aware of this. One of our viewers asked the question, so how would you know if your information is being stolen? If you've been compromised, your data, all the data breaches that are going on? And how I answer that question is it's kind of easy and difficult. And I explain this way because cyber attacks, it's not a one-time event or incident. It is an ongoing campaign to create and construct a jigsaw puzzle that consists of all your personal identifiable information. It may take them three minutes to 3 years to put together a profile of you. And they do it by connecting different databases from around the world that have been stolen or where the hackers or criminals have compromised, and they will link all this personal information back to you. Once this information is linked to you, then they can build your profile. Once your profile has been developed, they will turn around and sell it to other bad guys in the darknet representing you. So the clue here, or the thing we need to do here, is we need to be able to break up that puzzle, that profile that's been sold in the darknet regarding our individual identities. And the way we do that is to stop putting out personal information into databases or giving our information to organizations that we're not familiar with, and making those organizations accountable for any information that has been compromised from their databases or servers that hackers can get into. And of course, there's other strategic things that are done that the good hackers are doing to counterattack these actual databases that are out in the darknet as well. And those are some of the things we'll be talking about on this show, and letting you know that there's some other things that are going on. But those are just some of the things you could do to protect yourself. Now, how you could be aware of it or what may happen, you may find that there's credit cards in your name. You may find that there are utility bills that are in your name that you did not sign up for, that hackers or criminals have used to get utilities in your name. They may have even purchased a home or a car in your name. And in some cases, even have stolen titles from homes and caused the victims to be out of their homes because of this as well, because of identity theft. So those are some of the things, but the best thing we could do is keep vigilant, take a look at what's going on, check your credit all the time, at least 3-4 times a year. Check your credit, use your smartphones to also check your financial institution statements for bank balances and make sure any personal information or any transactions on your statements are reported immediately to the credit reporting agencies and financial institutions. Those are some of the things you can do, folks, to protect yourselves from cybercrimes and any theft. Stay tuned. We have a great segment next about casinos and hospitality industries. All the attacks have gone in the last few years. It will amaze you. Until then, we'll be right back, folks. Stay tuned here on Technology Review. We'll be right back.
Identity theft happens. It's an unfortunate fact of modern life. But there are certain steps you can take to help keep your personal information from falling into the wrong hands. Every day you do things to protect what's most important to you. And you know what? You do them almost automatically. Routine things like looking both ways before you cross, brushing your teeth, and buckling your seatbelt. Another routine to get into is keeping tabs on your identity and personal information. Here are 5 easy ways you can do it. Read your credit card and bank statements carefully and often. Know your payment due dates. If a bill doesn't show up when you expect it, look into it. Read the statements from your health insurance plan. Make sure the claims paid match the care you got. Shred any documents with personal and financial information. Review each of your 3 credit reports at least once a year. It's easy and it's free. And before you know it, protecting your personal information can be as routine as locking your doors at night. For more tips and tools on dealing with identity theft, visit ftc.gov/ID theft. That's ftc.gov/ID theft.
Folks, welcome back to Technology Review. I'm your host, Mack Jackson, Jr. In this segment is Cyber Security News. In Cybercrime News, we're going to talk about some of the biggest things right now that are affecting you, your business, in regards to identity theft and fraud and cybercrimes. And we'll start by talking about a list of casinos and hospitality businesses that have been hit by a cyber attack. Now, we're just going to go back a few years because there are so many that have been hit and struck by these cyber attacks. It's been astonishing. But I want to just give you a quick list here of some of the biggest cyber attacks that have happened. We'll start with the Wyndham in this was in 2009. That's right, 2009. The Wyndham Resort and Hotel Resorts were hit also in Texas as well, in Dallas, Texas, in 2010. There was a big cyber breach that happened there as well. Then we'll go down our list and we'll find hotels like the Choice International Hotels in 2012. And of course, here in Las Vegas, the Las Vegas Sands Hotel and Casino that was struck by a cyber attack in 2014. And that was a huge cyber attack, folks. That was almost something that could have affected the whole entire strip here in Las Vegas if it wasn't breached and thwarted beforehand. And the people within the Sands Hotel were able to stop that and get people involved on it so it wouldn't go any further. We also have the Trump hotels in New York City that were struck by a cyber attack in 2016. And again, back to Las Vegas, we have in 2016 the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, which is now under renovations, under new ownership. But during 2016, there was a big cyber attack that affected that organization as well. Then we have the Omnia Hotel Resorts, and of course, there was one of the biggest ones was the Marriott Hotel in 2017, one of the biggest cyber attacks that had over 100 million guests and customers' information stolen. And then, of course, we move on to here in Las Vegas, back again at the MGM Grand Hotel last summer. Over 10.6 million guests had their personal identifiable information compromised. The reason why I'm telling you this, folks, because casinos and hospitality industries are prime targets for cyber attacks. Why? It's because guests stay there and they're away from their businesses and their homes. They're away at the hotels and resorts. If hackers can get information about the guests and put together this jigsaw puzzle of personal identifiable information, they can, of course, victimize the guest while they're away on vacation or not at their business or hotels by taking their emails and breaking into their email systems from home or from work. They can then send spear phishing campaigns to their work or business, disguising as them. For example, any CEOs or CFOs of organizations, there's been several attempts, now I'm not saying about these hotels, however, just giving you an example of a spear phishing attack, is when an email is posed as a legitimate authority of an organization that requests to have financial funds transferred from the business to a third party. This is the type of spear phishing attacks that hackers are becoming more and more professional at and getting better at fooling, if you would, people in corporations to pretending they are someone that they're not. So that's one of the reasons why this is very, very important about these cyber attacks that have happened. And these are large corporations, folks. These hotels and hospitalities, they spend millions of dollars on the best IT people the market has and that are available, and put together very, very strong firewalls. So how are these places breached? How are hackers still able to attack these companies and do these spear phishing attacks? Well, we have to examine not just the hardware and software that these companies are spending millions of dollars at, we also have to look at the human factor. And the human factor are the personnel, employees that work there. Some of them have been negligent in their duties, and other ones just simply do not know or are unaware of the different types of vulnerabilities that hackers have developed over years and years and years of practice, and how to get these individuals to divulge personal identifiable information or secret information regarding a company. to these hackers. So that's why it's important that we look at both segments when it comes to hacking attacks. We have to look at the hardware and software that our organization invests money in, and the human factor as well, in making sure that the employees of the organization are trained, and not just a one-time training, folks. And here's again the reasons why. Your employees may have a one-time training course on how to change a password, and they may not have that training again within the company because they figured, hey, they learned how to do it. But I'm telling you, folks, hackers in the underground and sometimes even out in the open nowadays are training constantly, looking for vulnerabilities within organizations, what organizations are not doing to protect their personal data of their customer on their servers. And they analyze this and they go back and forth and create different ways. So that's why it's important to have constant training. It is a frustration and expense that companies are having to pay for now, but it's something that companies really need to look into in the constant efforts to keep their employees on top of what can go wrong when it comes to business data and personal data within an organization. So companies need to be willing to invest more time and money into this. And there are definitely some suggestions that we have here at Technology Review and with my company, Mack Jackson, Jr. and Associates, in a way to protect your business. But I want to make sure to get the information to you, the importance of it. These companies, such as casinos and the hospitality industry, spend millions of dollars in equipment, hardware and software. And if they can do this for their large corporations, what about your small business? The small businesses that cannot afford to have a full-time IT team protecting their servers against this personal information being stolen, right? So what does a small business do? More likely small businesses will transfer the risk, if you would. They will take their accounting data or their CRM information or their invoices and they'll put it over into a cloud that's protected by a large corporation, and that cloud data is then cloud data company has an IT team that will formulate all the protective means for protecting that data, transfer of risk. Now that's fine, but still that if that cloud-based company is ever struck by a cyber attack, the individual small businesses, they are still liable for any damages to their customers, even though they've transferred the data over to a company, because the transfer data company is responsibility again of the business owner. So what that means is hackers will look for low-hanging fruit. The doors that are open, that are easy to get to, hackers will go to it. It's like water flowing down a mountain, right? It will find the least means of resistance. And those small businesses are the least means of resistance because they're not going to have the qualified people and investing in the large infrastructure of hardware in protecting data. So small businesses, this message is for you. We need to make sure that something that you can invest in that doesn't cost millions of dollars like hardware and software like the large companies have. That is the other factor, and that's the human factor, which consists of your employees and staff that work for you. What you need to do is make sure that your employees and staff of your small organization are trained as well on a consistent basis. We'll get more into that, what that looks like in our third segment of our show here. We talk about what businesses can do. But in this segment, I just want you to be aware of all the effects of these large hotels and casinos and hospitality businesses that have been struck by these cyber attacks. They're going after them because there's so much information that is asked of you. Think about it. You go into a hotel, there's even a consumer or a guest information list that asks you all sorts of things like your favorite foods, things that just personal information about you that you fill out in a optional survey form, if you would, that these hotel guests are asked because the hotel wants to become more friendly and personable to their guests, which is definitely understandable. It's all part of marketing, advertising. We all appreciate this. But hackers see this as parts of that jigsaw puzzle I was telling you about. More and more information about you is given to the hotels or given to the casinos in their Players Club cards and their rewards cards and all these different programs. The hackers can take this information, string it together in this jigsaw puzzle, and make it available for sale to criminals in the darknet. So again, folks, it's very, very important to keep our information to a minimum and make sure that we keep these large corporations accountable for our information that we give to them. Folks, there's more to come. In our next segment, we're going to talk about what business can do to protect themselves and what this means to you individually as well. So stay tuned with us right here, folks, in Technology Review. We'll be right back after these messages.
Bookkeeping doesn't have to be a chore. Not with Intuit QuickBooks Enterprise Software for Business. You can run your entire business with QuickBooks software easily and accurately. Plus, there's less paperwork to keep track of, and that means less stress. Contact Mack Jackson Jr., a QuickBooks Pro Advisor and Trainer, to learn more. Call MJ Computer Concepts at 702-868-0808. That's 702-868-0808. And start breathing easier with QuickBooks Enterprise Software for Business.
Hello, folks. Welcome back to Technology Review. I'm your host, Mack Jackson Jr. Again, you can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Technology Review TV. And also, folks, on YouTube as well. Do us a favor, go to our YouTube channel and make sure you subscribe and like and let your fellow co-workers and personal friends and family know about our show, Technology Review. You can find us here on WWDBTV as well. And folks, you can go to my website at MackJacksonJr.com, MackJacksonJr.com, if you'd like to have consulting or information about how to improve your business and your security posture when it comes to cybersecurity awareness education. In this segment, we're going to talk about cybersecurity awareness training. Now, this means what your business can do, because there are some things we need to do. We need to stay proactive, folks, proactive. Just remember that term, proactive, in our cybersecurity awareness efforts in protecting our data. Because remember, folks, our best defense against a cyber attack is through education. So a couple of things we could do. I was talking to a couple of tourists here in our town of Las Vegas that the first time they've been here, and they're from the Midwest on a farm, and they're not used to the fast city living and everything. And they were asking me a question about their smartphones and how hackers can attack them and what they should know while they're here in our great city on vacation. And one of the things I gave them advice on is their smart devices, their smartphones. I asked them a simple question: do you have antivirus software on your laptop or desktop at work at home? And of course they said yes. They went through a couple of training exercises about a couple years ago. It was the last time they did it. And their IT department put antivirus software and VPN software on their laptops and desktops. And that was about a couple years ago. That's the last time they've, and I asked them, have they had continuous training? And they said no. And I said to them, what they need to do is, first thing they could do personally for themselves is to make sure that their smart devices, like their tablets and phones, have antivirus software installed on them. That's right, folks, on your smart devices, make sure you have antivirus software, because your smart device phones are literally another computer system that you have. However, your smart device or your smartphone is actually more vulnerable than your computer or laptop or desktop, because your laptop or desktop, folks, you don't have Wi-Fi or data plan on it where you're getting information sent to it wirelessly. You don't have that at work. But your smart device, you do. It's wireless, it has data that's been transmitted back and forth on your phone while you don't know it from the air. So you need to make sure that it's protected. And the best way to protect your smart devices is by installing an antivirus software and a VPN. So I mentioned this to my friends here from visiting us here in Las Vegas, and I told them about this, and they were very surprised that this is the first time they've heard of anything like this. They thought sure that their carrier, where they got their phone from, took care of them that way. Their phones were being protected. And I explained to them, no, it's not. The carriers are not responsible for any antivirus software, or if their machines, their devices get hacked. The individual users are. So that's one of the things that they can do, and you can do as well. So make sure your smartphone has antivirus software and VPN on it. And what this does, it gives you kind of a cloaking of your phone and hides it from hackers when you're on free Wi-Fi access points, such as a coffee shop, or you're in a hotel room, and you're taking advantage of the free Wi-Fi or the wireless communication that's going on in these establishments. It gives your devices a little bit more protection from hackers that are out there. Again, nothing's 100%, folks, but It's best to have some prevention than not to have any at all, and this will give you that prevention method. The other thing that I mentioned to my new friends, tourists here in Vegas, is that they mentioned that their company didn't provide them any additional training after they got their antivirus software and VPN installed on their laptop and desktops. So I mentioned to them that it's important to have at least twice a year training in cybersecurity awareness. And again, I pointed out the reasons why is that there are teams or bad guys from around the world that are training on a 24-hour basis on what could go wrong, foreseeabilities of organization and businesses. In other words, they'll look for weak points to take advantage of, to exploit. And small businesses who are not aware of this can be vulnerable to these type of attacks. And it can affect them now with the human factor, which we mentioned in our first segment, folks. The human factor is the weakest link in this whole cyber awareness protection, because the human factor is where hackers can exploit the ignorance of individuals and how they use computers and try to take advantage of that. And they're getting so brazen now that they are using all types of scams. If you go on my website, I talk about this regarding these type of scams that are connected to the Federal Trade Commission has reported on these scams as well, where hackers would try to get individuals that work at companies to divulge personal information about the organization to these hackers from the phone lines, not just through spam emails anymore, folks. They're actually using the phone lines as well. These hackers will literally send you an email that's spam email, and then call you on the phone to present themselves as authority of that email that you just got and you're getting ready to delete because you're thinking it's spam. They're calling you on the phone now as a verification point. Now you're hearing this person on the phone after looking at that email you thought that was not possibly true. You're actually talking to this person on the phone because of this email, and it gives them an extra layer of authenticity to the average user. Then the hacker or criminal will then continue a conversation. It may not be at that point asking for personal information. They may want to call back with additional information to send them, folks. And they can try to get the user to click on something in that email by sending out an additional email later on after the conversation has happened. They're very, very brazen in what they do. I've even seen reports, folks, of these scammers physically going into organizations with fake badges, with fake ID certifications stating they're from some authority company like a cable company or law enforcement, and asking for information or access to parts of the organization. And because their IDs look so good and the employees are not being properly trained, a lot of times, folks, these companies these bad guys are able to get in to the companies and get access to the servers. And that's what they want, access to the servers. And it doesn't take a long time. With a small USB drive, folks, and within 5 seconds, they can implant malware and viruses within the organization before anybody knows of anything. And they're on their way and they're gone. That's why it's important to have your employees trained in what can happen. And what this type of training will cover, folks, is scenarios that exist currently right now and that have come from law enforcement agencies like the Federal Trade Commission, FBI, and local law enforcement. And this information is passed on to companies where they can then train their employees or have their employees trained in these scenarios and things to avoid and watch out for when it comes to cyber attacks. So this is just some of the things we want to explain to you folks and what you can do to protect yourselves from this type of harassment or type of cyber threats. You can find out more information about this by going to my website at MackJacksonJr.com, contacting me about this. And if you don't contact my company, folks, and you're somewhere in the world, and because we can't be everywhere right now, contact a cybersecurity awareness consultant from where you're at and make sure you have this type of training from where you're at, folks. It's very, very important we do this. And a lot of this training can be done virtually right now as well. We can reach out to most of our clients from around the world, here from our studios also. So folks, I want you to think about this, tell a friend, remember to keep contact with us, send me your emails and questions you may have regarding cybersecurity awareness, education, and training. I'm your host, Mack Jackson Jr., and folks, we'll see you next week with another story relating to cybersecurity awareness here at Technology Review. Take care.